Seller Sessions Live is back after 3 sold-out shows. Come join me and an army of 7-8-figure sellers from around the world. Once again, we fly in the world's best Amazon speakers, dropping cutting-edge marketing tactics. This time we have a series of fringe events giving you a weekend of learning, networking, and the legendary parties we are known for.
I heard it that time.
You heard it that time. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. That was just a new trailer for Seller Sessions Live May 13th, and I played it just to test it before the show. And because of my East London accent, Brian Johnson thought, instead of legendary parties, do you want to tell them what you thought it said?
I thought it said legendary pie eating, as in like it was like a pie and chips kind of.
Well, here's the irony.
Thing. Yeah.
A UK thing in East London is pie and mash, right? So it's quite close. We might actually get some pie and mash in next time. So, but we'll hold the fish and the other traditional dishes. Yes, guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Brian R. Johnson, the brain, is with me. Daniel Fernandez, the boy wonder. The good Dr. Ellis Whitehead is here. The first lady of Amazon PPC, Destaney Wishon, will be joining us in a little while. Today's show, what we're going to do is going to cover over some of the things from the past year pertaining to PPC and Amazon PPC, and what we should be looking at for 2023. So can we go around the room, starting with Brian? Would you like to do an introduction, please?
Absolutely. So my name is Brian Johnson. I'm with Canopy Management, and I've been in the e-commerce space for about 15 years. Blah, blah, blah. I helped a whole lot of people make a whole lot of money on Amazon.
I hope you made some along the way as well.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Excellent. Daniel
Fernandez from AMZ Clever. Been in the game for about 8 years. So serious that I actually moved to China, worked there with some brands, and recently got back to the States.
Yeah.
And Amazon and Walmart is our breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Excellent. Ellis?
Great. So I'm Ellis. I work with Danny. We founded Databril together. We've been trying to, do smartest work we can with regard to managing Amazon PPC for our Amazon clients.
Exactly. And it's our 5th birthday coming up in March also. Yep. Right. Let's get into some content. Let's go back to 2022, starting with Brian. Some of the key things that worked really, really well in terms of PPC in 2022, because as I said, guys, what we'll do, we'll cover what worked in 2022, what didn't work in 2022, what could work in 2023, and anything that we can bring over from 2022 to build on for 2023. So, Brian, start with some of the key things that did work in terms of PPC in 2022.
Absolutely. I think because Amazon had continued to open up our abilities to modify the creative, images, videos, these kinds of things, those naturally are more eye-catching to consumers, and those seem like they worked a lot better for us than we had seen in previous years. So better, in fact, I would say it's an improvement compared to what we would normally get from just search term type of ads. So just the ability to put out more static images, more video that caught the shopper's attention, allowed us to stand out from the competition. Really seemed like it worked as far as getting higher engagement, and assuming that the product listing, of course, was optimized correctly, then we had higher conversions as well.
You're muted, Danny.
Sorry, I was on mute there. The dog
was making a great point, though.
If you guys want to leave comments, please feel free to do so. Any questions you have, we can answer those into the show as well. Okay, is there any other points you want to cover there, Brian, on your list, and then we can move to Daniel?
Yeah, I'd say just keep moving. We got a lot of cover.
Okay,
sure.
Cool. Daniel, you're up next.
So what worked for us?
Yeah, what worked in 2022 for you? The standouts.
Yes, I would say 2 or 3 things. Top of the list is retargeting, remarketing. It's been fantastic in 2022.
Yeah.
And I would say definitely top of the list. Then, below that, I would say taking advantage of the search query performance report, like really understanding what, where competitors are getting their actual sales Before it was a little bit of an educated guess game. Now is factual. Now is coming from the source. So understanding that and then building a advertising strategy around that. Just maybe like below that, I would say we've had more often than not very good results with virtual bundles.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Ellis.
Would you mind if I posed a question already?
Yeah.
I know
Okay.
this isn't. So, what have you done with virtual bundles, Daniel?
Yeah. So there's two strategies around them. One is just defensively creating them. So even if products don't make sense, creating them, because on an Amazon page, by the fact of just creating them, it pushes down the advertising carousel below the fold, right? So that's one, because some brands and people say, hey, look, but my products are not even related, or if somebody buys this, that doesn't need that. It doesn't matter. We still launch them because of that. The second reason is advertising them, right? Like when there is virtual bundles that have synergy, now we can run ads on them. And then there's been a few cases where we had a better revenue per order percentage.
Okay, that's interesting. We haven't had luck with advertising virtual bundles, so that was in particular what I was curious to hear. But yeah, when they can then show up on the listing, that's really good.
And the thing that many people miss is you can go to business reports and then look at the sessions for your virtual bundles, but they all show, in terms of sales orders, they show 0. Not because there wasn't any orders. It's just that to get the orders for those virtual bundles, you have to request Amazon to email you, and then they email you a report that has basically how many you actually sold, and you have to put the two together, and then you get conversion rate for virtual bundles.
That's good information. So, Danny, shall
yeah, go ahead. Just what you felt worked for us in 2022.
Yeah. So, in order not to rehash any of the stuff that's already been said, I'll kind of touch on something else, and that is just in general the approach of trying to cover all of the bases with the different kinds of ad placements and see what works. So you try something out smart, you measure the results, you choose the next step, because we find that, like, we have one client where sponsored display is the best. We have another client where DSP is the best performing by far in terms of ACoS. We have another client where it's the brand videos. I mean, it's different. It's different for each one. And so even though the sponsor brand videos might work really great in a certain niche or for a certain client's product, it might just not work at all for another client. Even if we think ahead of time before we try it out, we think, oh yeah, it seems promising here. It could just turn out that the competition is too high, that we can get great conversion rates, but they're not worth it at the cost per click that we're getting. And so covering all the bases, knowing what you're looking for, tracking whether that's happening, and adjusting as appropriate. So the usual that we do every year, and that's actually more important than any new thing that gets added each year.
Yeah. Just going off the top of the dome, I don't expect you to have all the data at hand. So going back to Brian, looking across the agency, what have you seen perform best? Your top 3, is it sponsored products, video, etc. across the board? What have you seen that stands out for if you aggregate the information across all of the accounts you manage?
Well, of course, it's going to be subjective as far as like what metric that you're going after: visibility, engagement, conversion, that kind of thing, right? Profitability.
Let's focus it on sales then. Yeah,
sales. Okay. So we've got a high. Still sponsored product ads, as far as just keyword ads, are certainly going to give us the highest volume in general, as far as the highest volume of sales and visibility. I would say that also plays into the highest profitability, primarily because we no longer shotgun ads like we used to, or we just say, hey, let's drive as much, ad spend, maybe of previous years. We definitely focus in on really using the tools, the tech, the tech that's in the space now in order to analyze the gaps in the competition and really go after where we can use the ad spend tactically or even strategically, tactically, in order to rank for specific keywords, for instance. So we're no longer, back in our early days, it wasn't uncommon for us to throw 10,000 keywords into an ad, into a campaign, right? And just say, okay, let's see what sticks, right? Let's see what works. Now it's more like, okay, I've got, maybe 50 to 100 target keywords, but I've got 4 or 5 keywords that I'm really just going to go overdrive and focus a lot of ad budget on, because I'm intentionally trying to get a secondary result, which is organic ranking, and therefore raising both the ad sales as well as the organic sales. So tried and true, back to sponsored product keyword ads, honestly.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. I mean, Alice can validate that much more than me. Daniel.
Yeah, so we see sponsored products as a necessary evil. We run them, but they have high conversion rate, but they also have high CPC. So at the end of the day, the days of low ACOS, low on those, I think they're not very much here anymore. But we run them to drive volume, keyword ranking maintenance. In terms of most successful segment, has been the sponsored display ads, more specifically the views remarketing, and also even for our own products, but even for the one that is for related products, right? The audience that is for related products, that has a higher conversion rate than sponsored products. It's a very high percentage of our ad spend. And the rationale that we follow is in late 2022, early 2023, it's so hard to and so expensive to get traffic to your listings that probably the lowest hanging fruit is people that already saw it, right? And we try to advertise aggressively there. That's been very, very good.
Cool. Ellis?
Sorry, I forgot the question.
So the original question
Right.
was, and then we've been making adjustments as we go, was best performing ads, is it sponsored products, etc. If you were to look at, say, the top
right.
3.
On average, we see sponsored products being the best. So on average, I would say we have sponsored products with the lowest ACOS and the highest sales. Not necessarily with the highest conversion rates, but and then there are the exceptions. Like I've mentioned, the sponsored display in some cases for certain niches or certain products, whatever clients, it can work really well. And in others, the sponsored brand video will work the best. But we're normally seeing like for a client who's doing all of the different kinds of ads, and they really have good or plenty of videos and imagery for the sponsored brands, we normally still end up with at least 70% of the sales coming from sponsored products, unless we're really, really driving another one for some reason.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just a case of stumbling across what that is and deciding,
right,
hey, you know what, product targeting ads are not working near as well in this specific niche compared to keyword ads. Sometimes you just have to okay, that's not working. Got to try something completely different.
Yeah. Everything's got to be tested. Let's get into ranking in 2022. Brian, starting with you. You sit down with your clients, you're planning things out there. Obviously their focus is retaining, or Dan called it maintenance. Any changes in any different ways you're approaching this in terms of when a client comes to you, their focus is, look, we want to get the budget under control at some point and taper down, but our focus of these is not just visibility, it's about going after organic ranks. Could you go through your your process for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of clarify, there's those established 3P brands and 1P brands that are already selling on Amazon and already have an established history.
The grandfather did.
Yeah. And then you've got the ones that may be new to launching products and brands on Amazon. Maybe they had success in other channels, maybe even brick and mortar. And we've seen probably in the last 6 months, we've definitely seen a big shift where we're helping a lot more brands that are launching onto Amazon in the first place or launching new products on Amazon. So a lot of it has to do with how aggressive can we grow and get a market share. So those are two different tactics. One, you're going to be more like, hey, I'm going to be budget sensitive and yet still want to rank. That's kind of where I was talking about before is narrowing the ad budget that exists that's been given and saying, okay, we don't have enough ad budget to just play everywhere. We can't be in all 30 plus ad placements on Amazon. We've got to focus in on where we're going to get the biggest ROI. And usually that's going to be identifying which of the products, which of the ad types, and which are the ad targets. Ad targets being, search terms, keywords, products, category. Which of each of those through some testing are producing the highest conversion rate, and then leaning in with more ad budget in.
I think we lost you there for a moment, Brian.
Yep, I don't hear me.
Yeah. Okay. While we're waiting for Brian to come back, Daniel, do you want to give us your thought process and what you're doing with your clients in pertaining to building out ranking campaigns specifically for gaining organic rank?
Yeah. So last year we have seen that premium price products almost are very unlikely to rank at the top.
We're talking about premium price products, not premium products. Yeah.
Correct. But which, usually are the premium products are also priced above market.
Perceived premium products determined by the brand, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So anything really 20, 30, 50% higher, in terms of price than the baseline, we just doesn't stick. And we've seen
when you say baseline is the average price of the page. So if the average price of the page is $13.99 and yours is $18.99, $19.99, that's where you're talking about that ballpark there. Yeah.
Yes,
but relative to prices, it goes up. Yeah.
Say in 2020, we could offset the ranking algorithm with just more traffic, more ad spend.
Yes.
And it would stick a little bit, but now it just doesn't work. So we've shifted strategy on, putting a lot of that ad spend more on retargeting that I mentioned it before. And also, product targeting, for us at least, it performs, converts lower than keywords, right? So that, and there's no clarity if that ranks, right? So it's very, very hit or miss. So in terms of like strategy, we just backed away a little bit from aggressive ranking campaigns, one keyword, all or nothing, right? When there is that price disparity. But if there is no price difference, it works, and we double down.
Yeah. Cool. Ellis, your take on this?
Yeah, well, I see it the same way as Daniel described. And so, I would even, the definition that you would use for average price on the page, I would even say being more specific, average price among like the top ranking ones.
Top 3
top
or
4,
4,
top 10.
Yeah.
And so since you can't rank on those anymore, if you have a high price item, a number of our
you can, but it's very, 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 very slim. This is the thing. It's possible. Right. There's always but with the majority rule, it's not going to happen if you want positions 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah.
No. So some of our clients have really had to, just redesign their whole business strategy because they were able to be top of search with their premium price products, and now they aren't. And so it's required a change in their business model.
Yeah. Can we explore some examples without breaking anything that's confidential?
Yes.
When you say that, can you give an example of what changes that they made to the model that could help the listeners?
Yeah. So in one case, for example, it's just a matter of pulling back on expectations for sales velocity.
Yeah.
And so they find that they can have a profitable business with good return on investment, but they only have maybe a quarter of the sales that they used to when they could have the organic ranking. And so you have to do a lot in a business to get it so that
to turn that ship around.
Sales,
There's six months, 8 months. Yeah. It's a long-term turnaround. Yeah.
Right. And then others have then seen, okay, we need to do different, we need to have lower priced products.
Yep.
And so that involves changes to their manufacturing and packaging so that they're able to produce them more inexpensively.
Yeah.
So that's, it's a big change for some people.
Yeah.
To add to that,
Yeah,
there was just one,
Mhm.
and Dennis, something you also referenced to is a little bit of the reshifting that we've done is if out of our 100% of the ad spend we would have done back in a year or two ago, let's say 20% of that was aggressive ranking campaigns. What it's very client specific, but in many cases we're taking that 20% budget and we're allocating it as discounts, as prime exclusive discounts to boost up sales velocity. Achieves the same, and we like prime exclusive discounts because it doesn't necessarily change map pricing, right? Rather, it just lies on top of the map pricing. So in terms of reallocation of budget, that's how we have seen it.
Yeah. Welcome back, Brian. Sorry, we got dropped off for those listening back on the podcast.
Thank you for your patience on that.
No worries, Brian dropped out. But let's finish on what you were saying. We're still in the ranking area. Do you want to carry on with what you were talking about?
And I'm not sure where I cut off, but
let's take it from the top. We'll roll it back, and then
okay.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as what we're trying to do is, of course, if we've got a limited budget, we're trying to rank. What I was saying earlier is that you've got you do usually have to focus a certain amount of or a majority of your ad budget on very specific results, which may be organic keyword ranking if you're driving organic ranking. It absolutely needs to have a blend of a lot of other solutions out there: listing optimization, search differentiation, some external traffic, these kinds of things. But ultimately, from an ad standpoint, definitely hyper focusing in on an end goal, on a specific result, and then knowing that there's a temporary that usually has the biggest bang as far as driving rank. Now, ultimately, it's the test of how high can I get with my product for a specific search term. So you don't want to fool yourself and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to beat these 800-pound gorillas for this keyword with my product that doesn't have the social proof or doesn't stand out or is not well differentiated. But at the same time, you can there's plenty of great tools that are available now in order to better assess the gaps in the competitor market space that still have search volume, that still have conversion value that you can go after and you can attain. And then you continue just to work up the chain from there, continually testing to see, do I land, at the bottom of page one, or do I land in the middle of page one? Well, if I land in the middle of page one, maybe I need to double down on that and see if I can get a little bit higher above the fold so I can get a lot more organic sales. So that's one.
Cool. I want to run an exercise quickly here, not literally run and do exercise, but I want to run through an exercise. Imagine, like, as agency owners here, a seller or a brand will come to you, and the business is the business, and we work on a function which happens to manage the PPC, but we don't control the levers. We don't control brand name, price, the products, etc., etc. As a helpful exercise for the audience as well, Brian, what would be the ideal client that shows up, just as an exercise? What type of business is it, their price points, all those kind of things that will be perfect, that is nothing's perfect, but in a very good, healthy position in terms of how PPC can work really well for them across the board.
From a product standpoint, or from an owner of
From
that
everything,
brand
you know,
standpoint?
the idea, imagine an amazing brand comes in and they hit every marker. Let's just say that you've got your checklist. The brand comes in, you go, you know what, they hit every single one of them. Because I know with Ellis, the key thing for him in most cases is it a brand? You know, what can we do for it? Do I like the brand? Does it have scope there where we can do our best work? Do you see what I mean? So if a brand comes to you, what is the ideal brand? Just because this reverse engineers for guys that are growing their brands now to make those adjustments, because you're going to have historic brands that can't turn things around. Their price points are fixed. There's so many things that are in place. They've got history there where it's very difficult to make some of these changes. But if they're starting new brands, what would be some of the ideal aspects?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So ultimately, we know it used to be where, you know, I would always lead like, okay, what's your advertising, what's your PPC strategy? And the past couple of years, it's always been like, what's your listing optimization strategy first?
Yeah,
get that figured out, get that nailed down, because you know, it's still, and as you guys already know, is that 90% of the brands selling products on Amazon still have this wrong. They haven't learned, they haven't adapted. Their listings are using a format that is outdated. They don't stand out. They just emulate everybody else. And so we start with that. We start with the listings, first of all. What the kind of products that provide the most opportunity for us to create the biggest bang when we put in our processes, our system, is products that have first of all, there's more than one parent and child relationship. There's multiple products to work with. Usually they have a conversion rate that is already above 10%. It's not, you know, suppressed down to the 3 to 5% as some niches are. And it's a product in a niche that has some ability to differentiate among its competitors. Some niches are frankly just brain dead easy to differentiate because you're the only 3P seller in a pool of 1P sellers, and frankly Amazon does a garbage job of trying to actually promote products through 1P, and so those are easier. But then you get in some of the more competitive niches where everybody's dialing in, and sometimes finding that standout differentiation is not even about bringing to market a product that is actually truly different than everybody else, because everybody else is going to catch up to you in 3 to 6 months anyway. Is really constantly be in a state of pivoting when it comes to how are you presenting your product to the consumer that appears that you've got something special. And a lot of times that has to do simply with identifying the benefits and the features about the product that simply just haven't been pointed out by competitors. They may all share the same features. They may share all the same benefits, but if you're in a niche that has a lot of lazy sellers, it's easy to change your listing to appear to stand out, even though you're selling the same product. So part of that is just what is the opportunity to dramatically increase the conversion rate and the standout differentiation of that product within a niche that's going to have compounding effects when it comes to traffic, when it comes to advertising profitability. And so ideally, that's what we're looking for, is some flexibility through more SKUs. So we can say, you know what, that one's not working. Let's focus on this hero product and the sidekick product. And the ones that, through a little bit of change, a little bit better listing optimization, a little bit better benefit messaging to the shopper, we can make that product stand out among the sea of similar products.
Yeah. Daniel, your take. The perfect brand shows up, says, want to work with you guys. What are these perfect attributes that you'd love to see?
Yes. So I would say top of the list, a brand that already has branded traffic on Amazon is going to have more fuel to fuel other parts of the business, such as PPC, going after non-branded generic traffic, right? So I would say top of the list is not a deal breaker, but when we don't see that the USP of the product just needs to be very, very easy to notice, right?
Mhm.
And in the simple side, it could be pricing, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have any branded traffic, then your price better be competitive.
Mhm.
Or if you're on the premium side, there better be a strong feature benefit, right? That the rest don't have. To Brian's point, if that's the case, then you have to do a hell of a job marketing that feature, that differentiator, right? But I would say that's top of the list.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is SKU count,
Yeah.
right? We like to see catalogs that have at least 10 SKUs. North of that, if you have 50 plus, then it just floods the catalog, right? Like if it's a brand, but you only have, and you have a lot of branded traffic, but you only have 2 SKUs, somebody types in your brand name, your 2 SKUs show at the top, but then number 3, number 4, number 5 are competitors,
Yeah.
and you lose some of your traffic there. So I would say that's some of the criteria.
Cool. Ellis?
Let's see, touch on something different.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that I found really helpful in 2022 was when a client had a strong off Amazon website. So this brought a lot of advantages. One of them, and this is just a data advantage, is you can compare and contrast changes in sales on Amazon and off Amazon for different products. Another thing is that the off Amazon presence adds another lever that can be used when you need to try to drive more traffic on Amazon, and it provides more of a buffer when Amazon isn't working as well. Like maybe a product gets taken down by Amazon for no good reason, and it takes a month to get it back up. Having the off Amazon sales helps provide a bit more security in the business.
Yeah.
So that would be another point that I would say is ideal. That is not something that most of our clients have well built out,
Yeah.
but a certain percentage do, and it was very helpful in 2022.
Ellis,
I would
question
say-
on that.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's like now are you guys going in and looking also as far as the traffic that's going to their site, Google Analytics, SEM Rush, those kinds of things in order to see if you can identify where some of the influencers and other search terms that might be coming in?
No, we're not doing that. The analysis then for that side of things, we mostly coordinate with our clients on the data coming in, and with what we get from them, we're comparing it and using it to help make, exactly.
Right. And of course, it's a good safety net should something go awry on the Amazon channel.
Right.
Yeah.
And with how much profits have compressed for a lot of clients over the last year or two, it's that's helpful.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Destaney.
Hello. Super
Hi
happy
there,
to be
Destaney.
here.
How you doing? You good?
Oh, I'm doing well. I mean, it's the beginning of a new year, and all of the chaotic energy from Q4 is still riding that wave, but it's going great.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Well, we'll bring you into this part of the conversation, and then we can move on to the next phase. But what I said before you joined the show was, if we were running an exercise, let's just say your ideal client that comes to have your services for PPC as an exercise, because you all know there's some key tenets that ticks all the boxes to all of your worksheets, SOPs, and everything else. And this has also helped the listeners, especially if they're on their second brand. And obviously with PPC becoming more expensive, we've got more margin compression and stuff, more difficult to compete. What are some of the key tenets there that you like to see in brands that are very beneficial for when they are doing PPC?
I would say the two biggest things on my end are, one, just conversion rate optimization and having, the highest CRO possible. So that way, when I do drive traffic, there's a high likelihood of the traffic converting, because PPC is easy. I feel like maybe it's because we've been doing it for so long, but it's super easy. Be like, I'm targeting this keyword. That's exactly what your product is. If you're not converting, there's only so much I can do here. And as things have gotten so much more expensive, we have a lot less margin of error. So, back in the old days, we could target terrible keywords and still be profitable because they're so cheap. But nowadays, we can't do that. So that's probably the first thing. And the second thing I'll throw out there is just an understanding of data and organic rank and that whole aspect of the funnel. Because traffic is becoming so much more expensive. That's like, hey, maybe we do need to have other platforms to drive traffic that you can actually afford from a cost per acquisition standpoint.
Yeah. Cool. Who is been, I mean, everyone's talking about it. I've done a show earlier on in the week with Anthony Lee. Who is, I'm going to say Chat GPT.
Hey.
I was intentionally trying to avoid that topic just because I've been told I've got.
Well, the only reason I'm saying it is because we're moving into the next year. Are you guys, Destaney and Brian, Daniel, are you starting to find ways to integrate that to use part of the agency, whether it's optimizing parts of listings, asking pertinent questions to help with conversion rate, etc. Starting with you, Destaney, what are some of the things that you've managed to pull from that?
So we're in the process of getting access to the API, so that way we can integrate it directly into our software. And what we're really looking at is on our things that can make our advertising specialists more efficient. So we're looking at like writing headlines and keyword research aspects. I'll leave it up to everyone else because there's some cool things that we'd like to do, but I think it's a little bit of shiny object syndrome until we get the API access enabled.
Yeah. Brian?
Yeah, I'm right there with Destaney on that one. Is it Chat GPT by itself is pretty restrictive as far as what you can actually throw at it. I definitely have tried.
Yeah.
But similar kind of thing as far as like getting the API access to GPT-3 and then of course in the future GPT-4 so that you can do bulk analysis of larger blocks of data. It's definitely going to be a game changer for the Amazon, for the seller industry this year, where we see not only agencies, but of course software and services. It's the Chat GPT technology was originally taken. It's like, oh, here's how people can write articles, like like Jasper and some of these. And it's like, that's a really underutilization.
Without that,
what it can do. Yeah. And so we're looking at how do we, here's kind of an example, is simply just going into a product niche. And I did this with one of my own brands and just collecting all the reviews from all the products that I'm directly competing with, throwing them in and saying, okay, compare and contrast all the benefits and the weaknesses of each and essentially tell me what is, where is the standout differentiation of each product?
Yeah.
And it'll do it. It'll come back and say, well, this one has this advantage and this one clearly has this one. And it's not necessarily, even if the products are all the same, it's how is the product being presented in the listing. It tells you more about the mistakes that are being made in listing optimization as opposed to the true weaknesses of the products themselves. So it allows you to adapt and find like, wow, I thought we were saying this, but clearly we're not, because people are saying they're confused by it. You can ask it, like what is in a single product listing, what information is contradictory, for instance, or missing. It'll come back and it'll analyze it and say, it's like, yeah, it seems like, this idea conflicts with this messaging over here. And so there's a lot of things that we as humans, we may not see simply by rereading it. It's the forest for the trees kind of trap, that it'll take a step back. It'll pull in additional information from a whole niche. And it'll tell you like, yeah, your product doesn't stand up to these other ones.
Yeah. Daniel.
Well, none of you have asked AI to write an Amazon PPC rap song yet?
I have seen those, yes.
Well, besides that use case, we've seen, basically posting negative reviews and asking for copy to overcome that objection, right?
Yeah.
What is so conversion rate optimization, but it's very interesting when you put when you try to make a selling point from the negative reviews, either your own or from your competitors. I think right now that's probably the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
But I'm a little careful with this being just a fad or a phase.
A bit
right?
of a clubhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. So I hear you, but I'm staying a little bit not as excited yet.
Yeah. Ellis, as a programmer engineer, what's your take on all of this?
Oh, well, it's amazing
not-
technology, but
Yeah.
for PPC, I've enjoyed playing around with it and very impressed with it. It works well in German, I can confirm too, in case you want to use it for German listings as a non-German speaker. It's provides some really good starting points. And but for PPC, I haven't found any uses that I feel are worth pursuing yet. And yeah, I mean, for listings and stuff, I can very easily imagine there will be, or there are.
Ellis, are you asking the question in German, or you're saying write me?
Oh,
something
true.
like that?
I did pose the questions in German, so that could be a problem. Sorry, I hadn't thought about that part of it.
Okay. So moving on, Destaney, we'll kick off with you. Let's get into 2023. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes. What are the key things you're focusing on this year in terms of PPC? Where do you see things heading?
I think one of the biggest investments we're making is just in data analysis and using tools like AMC and Stream to better report back to our clients on where they should be spending money, especially from like an incrementality perspective. As things get more expensive and as we need to be more strategic with our money, Amazon's giving us more data to justify that spend. So AMC is definitely a big one. We can pull in, retail insights, path to purchase, and that's going to be really, really exciting into the new year.
Yeah. Brian.
Yeah, love hearing that. We're definitely delving a lot more into what Amazon is providing as far as Amazon tech. As they continue to expand search query analytics and catalog analytics, and just being able to go in and seeing how what kind of share of voice and conversion you're actually getting, not only through PPC but organic as well, is definitely expanding the ability to see new opportunities and see weaknesses. And sometimes it's a check and balance. You've got a client or our own team says, yeah, we need to go really hard on this one. And then we go in and we look at, specific, like where have we been spending our budget? It's like, wait a minute, we already have 70% market share on that term. We're not going to push it anymore. And so at some point you're like, okay, stop throwing money at that problem. It's not going to change. You need to shift over and identify new. So I think certainly what Amazon has rolled out so far this year with, in the past year, as far as like just the new tech with the expanded reporting, there's a lot of opportunity to dive into that. And I think that most brands haven't even scratched the surface on that. I think they I don't think they're keeping up with some of the new changes that have occurred in the new data that's available, let alone how to work with that data in bulk, because it can get overwhelming.
Yeah. Daniel.
I think that day parting, time parting is interesting. It's yet to, I think, have enough case studies, validation. Like we see maybe earlier in the morning, conversion rates are higher, but CPCs are higher too. Later at night, conversion rates maybe are lower, CPCs are lower. So, what is really the difference? So I think that, but it's still interesting. It might be the future. Who knows? Until everybody's using it, right? Then we go back to where we are today, right? So, but we're gonna be focusing a lot on retargeting. It's worked for our clients very well during last year. So probably be allocating a higher percentage of ad spend there. And then the other thing is look at the new data, the new reports that Amazon is giving us, especially the search query performance report, where now we can actually see the total purchases that everybody's getting for a given keyword, right? Like in the past, doing the research based on search volume, right? We saw, okay, this is the money keyword, but sometimes when you look at the total number of purchases organically, and you see that it's just 100 per month, does it really makes, like, if you dominate, become the number one product there, you'll probably end up getting just a portion of those 100 purchases, right? So making decisions, ad spend allocation decisions based on like actually where purchases are happening, not so much where search is happening.
Yeah. Ellis?
I guess two things I'd like to touch on. One is about the business development itself, and the other is actually some of the things that are crappy in what, these new services that Amazon is putting out. So on the business side, whether it is officially a global recession or not, there is definitely a tremendous compression of profit margins for most sellers on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And so historically, companies that manage to get through a recession, they get through it with stronger fundamentals than they had before, or they started out with really strong fundamentals to begin with. Mm-hmm. But the companies that come out of a recession are stronger than the companies that were going in. Yeah. And so, if you're having a hard time and you see that you can get, through to the end of this problem, focusing really on the business fundamentals is going to, is going to be good. Quality in various ways, making sure that you have products that, people are going to like, good listings, all this sort of stuff, but also working on the things outside of Amazon. And this might include things as far from Amazon as your debt. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an important thing for 2023. It was important in 2022. I think it will continue to be important in 2023. And then with regard to the crappy stuff, so there's the search query performance report, for example. When we look into that in detail, I love the report in principle. The problem is that the data is so bad. It's not always so bad, but you don't know when it's bad and when it's not. When we look into it, we see things, for example, like it says total numbers of sales on, a set of keywords or related keyword search terms. And we see just from the ad sales report, we're getting more sales on just our products than it's even reporting as existing on all of Amazon. And right. But this is just one of the many types of errors we see in there. We sometimes see reports of us having like 90% of the market share for certain keywords, and it's not the case. We might be strong, but we are definitely not 90%. And so I really wish Amazon would simply stop putting out crap so much. And they've never not been putting out crap when it comes to their APIs and all this stuff. It's better than it was 5 years ago, but it's still it's still a lot of crap. Yeah. And then with regard to the streaming, for example, one of the things that's a huge pain for us and a reason why we're not using it yet, not trying to develop for it yet, is because they put out the features so piecemeal. And so if we want to use it, we might be able to use a certain feature in the US, but then we can't use it in Germany. And so, you can do semi-day parting sorts of stuff also by downloading reports multiple times a day. That also sucks. Yeah. So sorry to go out on a negative note, but
no, I think you're right on that, Ellis. It's certainly their first generation, but I also see that is the case with most of the data tools that are on the market today outside of Amazon. Is you'll get 10 different opinions by asking 10 different tools, and they'll be sometimes they're just completely different. And so while we want to be able to trust the data, we've learned the hard way is just using it as a guideline. And I think collectively all of us here are considered early adopters of the technology, and there's some risk that comes with that. Is that sometimes it it's like the potential, we see the potential and we see the use and we try to implement it right away, but it just doesn't. Sometimes it's just like it's still just a guideline. So
but I go on, you go first, Destaney.
I was just going to say, knowing how to 80-20 it as well. I know brands will typically like pick up on these things and, like day party is always the most exciting thing a brand wants to implement. And then when you tell them that data has only been available in the last 3 to 4 months, they're like, what do you mean? It's like really knowing that we are the people that are educating the majority of sellers on how to use this, and like focusing on the 80-20 is super important. Cause like you said, like everything's so new, but the people who got into video and search in the first 3 months, the early adopters are the ones that are really going to figure out how to scale it. And that part excites me. Even dealing with all the bullshit we're going to deal with, working in Amazon.
Yeah. But the irony of the whole thing, you expect third-party tools to do the best that they can, right? So they are going to make a guess. So we expect that, right? Because it's external people trying to come to the conclusion. But it's such a crying shame that Amazon says, here, have all of our data, but it's fucked. That's the difference. Do you see what I mean? At least the software companies are all having a crack at getting it as close, like you said, the 80-20. Is it that hard for them to at least say, oh yeah, we're going to open all this stuff up for you, but it's going to be worthless? Not worthless, but you understand at least it could be is accurate.
So in defense of Amazon, maybe an unpopular opinion here.
No. You're here to share your opinions. It does, it's about everyone can express their feelings, without everyone getting triggered. Do you know what I mean? That's the whole point, is that we cover off all these areas to have a balanced view,
I think the SPP is great. And Ellis, to your point, isn't the SPP data is the SPP data based on organic sales only? Therefore, the PPC sales wouldn't be included. I think that was
I just
confirmed or not, but just wanted to share that.
And on top of that, knowing that 70% of click share does typically go to the first 3 sponsored product placements, which would make sense that advertising sales are driving higher volume than the organic search query in a niche category, was kind of my assumption. When I've ran into that as well, but I mean, you're spot on. There's no education behind it. So we're all just kind of figuring it out.
Speculation.
But, yeah.
The other one that's interesting is just on the product opportunity explorer, showing what percentage of new launches were successful in a new niche. That's also interesting. But anyway, go ahead.
I don't know whether it's just supposed to include organic. If it is, that's an additional data point. But even with that, we've considered when we've been looking at this, okay, if we don't include PPC data in here, is it plausible? And if we do, is it plausible? And we just so often see things that are simply implausible. Yeah. So I still like to look at the report. I'm not saying I don't like the report. It's just that it has to be taken. You just don't know which lines are how accurate, and that limits its value.
Yeah. Cool. So any final words from anyone before we go and go around the room and say our goodbyes? Starting with you, Destaney, anything you'd like to add?
No, because
Gone quiet there. That silence, did it feel a long time? Like you were on stage? You
That
know,
was
when
dramatic
you
pause.
It's quite a dramatic pause, isn't it? Yeah. Go on, off you go.
I got nervous, if we're being honest, just because I feel like a lot of our last few roundtables we've done have been filled with probably more pessimism than ever before. And I think 2023 is going to be more of that. I'm incredibly excited personally because I feel like we're learning more and getting more access to the things than we have ever gotten before. And that's really exciting to me. But again, it's knowing 80-20. At the end of the day, I think that's what matters the most for brands. Focusing on your top products, maximizing your conversion rate, driving traffic, and testing the new things as needed.
Yeah, indeed. Brian?
Dramatic pause. No. Yeah, it's easy to kind of like, be aware, of course, is, what's going on with economy and consumer spending and those kinds of things. And that's going to happen regardless of what we do.
Yeah.
The best thing that we can do on our side, which we're already doing, of course, is we try to innovate. We try to just constantly, just iteratively improve as far as what we do. I know as an agency, we are looking to, we're actively hiring and expanding and partnering and acquiring this year. We want to be very aggressive on that this year. And so, we're having a lot more of those kind of conversations. So we're anticipating, frankly, a great year. Certainly the changes in technology, just because ChatGPT gets released and people get to play with it, and the idea, and we wake up to, some of the potential opportunities. Ultimately, it's what is going to be put in place, what's going to be executed on, what kind of new tech is going to be available this coming year from all the software providers, from each of the agencies and consultants. I think there's going to be some huge jumps in our ability to, the insights we'll get on a product niche, bringing a product to market, standing out from competitors. And it's going to be easier than ever for a brand to frankly succeed if they just apply some time in differentiating, from standing out, from really fulfilling the need of the consumer, rather than simply just, hey, I'm out here to make a quick buck before I exit. It's, if you truly are plugging into your target audience and intimately understand what their pain is and how you can solve it, those are the ones that are going to stand out.
Yeah, indeed. Daniel?
I think no pause here. I think I'm quite optimistic. Don't they say experts have predicted 10 out of the last 3 recessions or something like that?
Good saying.
Right. And there's 2 types of recessions, right? Like the one that people talk about that is not really happening, and the one that actually happens. So I'm just trying to be careful with that, because then it does affect, right, consumer confidence. But I would say really focus on fundamentals, like actually having products that work, that solve problems, and then communicating those problems effectively. I think that we do see search demand on Amazon going down. There seems to be an oversupply of product, right? Many people overbought inventory, but that's going to be temporary. I think that as that goes down, some people are just not going to rebuy, restock, and that's going to improve the bidding option and everything like that. So I'm optimistic about that. I would say more than ever, it's important to I'll figure out on my own probably is going to cost more than previously, right? Like the previously just launch a product, do some PPC, and some of your mistakes were covered, right, by some of the growth that you were getting. I think we're going to be seeing less of that. So relying on people that are actually doing this on a day-to-day, like Destaney, Ellis, Brian, etc. Right? It's going to be more important than ever. I think it's going to be the year of just a perfect, well-oiled execution. Mistakes are going to be a little bit more costly, I think.
Yeah. Ellis?
Well, I feel like all you guys have said it well, so I don't really have much to add to that. I was going to talk about the overstocked situation that Daniel, like you had brought up, because that is an area where there's potential to come through better. I mean, all the overstock stuff in some niches led to really artificially low prices, which led to weird market situations. And as we get through that, for some of the, for those niches, things will return to normal.
Yeah. So going back to, like what Destaney said about pessimism, the way I kind of see it is that we're surrounded by extremely smart sellers. And what I love about sellers is they work this shit out. And the thing is, if you're meant to be in this game, you will be. If you're not, you're not. And that's okay. Find something that isn't right for you. But I want to report from the edge is that margin compression, this stuff is really happening. What do we do about it? We have to have these tough conversations because business is tough. It's not a merry-go-round. And I see a lot of sellers thriving because what they're going to do, they just become more and more sharper. If you look at the adjustments from 2015 to now, loads of people are still at it from 2015. We're all sitting here on the agency level, right? What did we do? We evolved, and so were the sellers. And knowing that, I'd rather the sellers know what's coming around the corner, what's realistic. It may not be a full-on, dark clouds of a recession, but I think it's really important. It's like, all right, we need to buckle in. That's all good. What do? We become more smarter. We become more sharper. We dig a little bit deeper. That's what separates us from the other guys. Do you see what I mean? And then it's those guys that your persistence and everything else and your consistency is how you win. So I understand totally what you're saying, Destaney, and I have to check myself thinking, do we go every week? We talk about recession and this, but these are important discussions because I want every Amazon seller out there to survive and thrive. Do you know what I mean? And if we can help in any way, I would love that for them, Destaney, how's the best way that people can reach you?
Check us out on LinkedIn or Facebook, Destaney Wishon, and or betterams.com.
Yep. Excellent. And Brian?
Certainly our website, canopymanagement.com. If anybody wants to reach out to me directly, it's simply just Brian, BRIAN, at canopymanagement.com.
Excellent. And Daniel?
Email. I get back to everyone. Daniel at amzclever.com or azclever.com, depending on where in the world you are.
Yeah. And Ellis will normally say, reach out to Danny, but people know how to reach us. Guys, thank you for joining us today. Sharon will be back in the chair next week. Adam Heist will make his debut on Seller Sessions as co-host as of next week. Guys, take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. See ya.
Thank you.